Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, this is the Taurus 856 Ultra-Lite. It's budget-friendly, pretty well made, holds an extra round compared to my favorite 38 Special Carry revolver, and there's a few other things about it that I think are interesting as well. And we are going to get into all of that here in just a minute. Alright, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've been watching our videos and just haven't had a chance before now and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can locate that subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of your computer screen there, or if you're on a mobile device, you can just scroll down below the video and hit subscribe that way. Don't forget to hit the bell. It'll let you know whenever we do something new. It's a simple thing that helps out a whole lot. So this is the 856 by Taurus. It's a nice little revolver. I talk to people all the time about the value of revolvers and how relevant they still are and carry. A lot of people will argue that because you've got all these little small semi-auto pistols that are available these days, but sometimes it's hard to beat the simplicity of a wheel gun. But anyway, we always like to start off with a little size comparison here, and I mentioned that this is just a little bit heavier than my favorite little revolver. And that'd be my Smith & Wesson 642, which is this guy right here. If you look at them side by side, they're pretty close. You know, you've got a little bit of extra grip on the Taurus here, but, you know, essentially, you know, these are very, very, very similar in size. And I always like to do this in the beginning because a lot of people pick out guns they think are neat, and they think about the accessories and what they can do with them, and then by the time they get them home and actually try to mess with a holster and carry the gun, a lot of times they are so uncomfortable that they're just not going to carry them. Some people who want to have every option will argue that, but most people I talk to at the end of the day, comfort is going to be a big factor on whether you actually have your gun on you or not. And you can see that if you're used to carrying one of these little small revolvers, this little Taurus is going to be very, very similar. So it should be something that most people that are used to carrying a small revolver could do very comfortably like any other. Well, we're going to jump right into the features here, but before we do, of course, we're going to take a moment to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Taurus 856 Ultra-Lite revolver today for our tabletop review. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearms safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So, quick safety check, of course. You got your cylinder release lever right there, and you can see that we are 6 shots of safe there. And we'll start from the top and work our way down like we normally would. And like most small revolvers you see like this, there's pretty much most of these 2-inch and under barrel revolvers are going to have a pretty simple sight system, a notch in the top right there, and then you have your little ramp sight. Now, it is pinned, so if you have a fancier sight that you want to replace it with, it is possible to do so. And of course, I know a lot of people who simply paint. You can take some high visibility paint if you want, and you could actually paint part of that sight to make it a little bit easier to pick up in certain conditions. But like I say, you got to remember a gun like this is definitely not going to be for anything but very up close use anyway. It's not going to have any kind of long distance accuracy. So, moving right along, of course this is a double action, single action revolver. Now my favorite I tend to use is a double action only. And the main reason I do that is because I like the idea of not having an exposed hammer when this is in a pocket holster. That's just a safety thing. And but I certainly don't object to having a hammer. I think that you train with either one, and you can get good results whenever you go to shoot the firearm. So I don't think it matters that much. That's just my preference. But you know, it is nice being able to cocked it and put it in single action if that's what you want to do. And of course, double action is just fine. I kind of like the idea of double action for my shots because it's an extra layer of safety. You know, you actually have to pull through that heavier trigger pull in order to fire a shot. It's got a pretty decent sized trigger guard. Most of these small revolvers, they don't have huge trigger guards anyway. it's very similar in size and shape to like the Smith. And this is good enough. I like to have as much room as I can to get my kind of long, big fingers inside there, and this one's not bad. I feel like that this is pretty easy to get into. It's just the right length that you can just drop your finger right in there. The grip I kind of like. It's a simple rubber grip, but it has this little shelf right here, so when you grab it, your thumb sits right on top of that little shelf, and it's actually a very comfortable place for your hand to rest. And of course, it leaves you enough room if you want to do some kind of a two-handed grip. You can bring your other thumb right in there, and you can do that. And it's just, whatever your preference is. But I like that little rubber shelf. It kind of feels like it really belongs there. And it's got pretty good texturing in the rubber on the sides here and on the back. So it's not bad. And once again, it is a plus P rated firearm, so you can use your whatever type of 38 special you have, you'll be able to use it in that handgun. Okay, so let's talk about the range. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because if you've ever shot a 2-inch revolver before, you kind of get it. And a 2-inch revolver is not going to produce amazing results as far as accuracy. Now, I always try and practice at kind of a realistic distance, and for me that's usually around 21 feet. I can obviously shoot beyond that, and I have plenty of handguns that will shoot very accurate beyond that range. But for defensive shooting, I really try to focus all of my time and energy on that 21 foot and under range because that's more realistic for an encounter. And you can get pretty decent groups taking your time, even with something like this. But don't expect to be shooting, sub 1-inch groups with a 2-inch revolver, even at 21 feet, because you're probably not going to do it. Not in any kind of realistic shooting situation. But I can shoot acceptable groups with something like this all day long. And, it's a revolver, so you don't have some of the issues that you have as far as ammunition. Pretty much anything that I run in my revolvers I've had pretty good luck with. 130 grain, this white box Federal, I've had pretty good luck as far as running that the range. Now, as far as what I carry, I'm a big fan of the Spear Gold Dot, this 135 grain plus P. Pretty much if I'm carrying 38 special, this is what I'm carrying as my defensive round. Now, some people think that's got a little bit too much smack for their hand. Whether it's someone who doesn't like shooting revolvers that much, or sometimes people just have not as much hand strength. I've had some females have said the same thing, but they do make some options that are a little easier. You got stuff like the little Hornady here. This is the Critical Defense Lite. That's a 90 grain, and that's a pretty accurate little round, and it doesn't have near as much energy going into your hand, and it's pretty nice. But like I say, it's a revolver, and you don't have some of the issues with revolvers that you have with semi-autos as far as if you have a problem with ammo anyway. Obviously, if you pull the trigger on a revolver and nothing happens, you can simply go to the next cylinder. You want to definitely wait a second there in case you got some kind of a delayed fire on that round, but that's pretty rare. But for a 2-inch barrel revolver, it's as good as any other that I've shot. The rubber grip with that little groove, it's very comfortable to hold. So it really doesn't feel any worse in my hand than any of the other little 38 revolvers of this size that I've shot. And one thing I was going to mention, the trigger on this is not bad. Sometimes you get little revolvers like this and the triggers are just awful. And on this one, as you come back, it's all the weight of this trigger is kind of there from the beginning. It's like a constant weight that you're pulling through. And I know a lot of triggers, they kind of feel like they're loading up, like they're getting heavier toward the back. This one doesn't really do that in double action. It feels pretty even from the time you engage it all the way till it breaks. And of course, in single action, it's a very light, very crisp, it's a very solid feeling single action trigger. So, for being a budget-friendly revolver, I think it looks nice, it's comfortable, and it has a great trigger. So it's got some good things going for it. Well, a lot of people have different ways that they like to carry revolvers, and I do have some outside the waistband holsters for stuff like this. But typically, if it's a small revolver, a lot of times I'm going to carry it in my pocket just because it's easier for me to do that. And like I say, a lot of people, they're just totally against the idea of anything besides a heavy-duty holster with some positive retention on it, and I get that. And you need to carry what makes sense for you. I'm merely saying that for me, I can take something like this, and it's perfectly safe. You know, my trigger, my hammer are covered. This can go into my pocket, and quite easily, actually, into my front pocket. And if I need to access this firearm, and when I go in my pocket and I draw, I can have my hand exactly where I need to be, and if I need to reholster, of course, it's not a big deal to go right back into it. Now, the only time you'll see me mention this type of holster is when we're talking about a small gun like that. You know, like I say, one of my favorites, the little 642, I carry one of these a lot. And that's how I carry it. I carry it in something like that with a sticky because it can just be in the pocket ready to go. And, you know, you need to carry what makes the most sense to you. But this is a very easy option. And there's a number of different varieties of these little sticky holsters available for any revolver, and they're not that expensive. And if you carry it this way, it's so light you hardly know you've even got it with you. Well, if we're going to talk about the impressions of the Taurus 856 Ultra-Lite overall, you know, it's not a bad little revolver. And for the longest time, I avoided Taurus because I just heard so many bad things about Taurus. And you have to really dig into that, to be fair to Taurus, because like any gun manufacturer, they've had some things that didn't go over as good as others. That has nothing to do with their other various lines, including these revolvers. A lot of their new semi-automatics are really good guns. And so you really have to try them out to, you know, make your own judgment. And so far, everything that I've tried that Taurus has put out over the last several years have been decent guns. And of course, you know, if you're looking at a budget situation, you know, the Taurus, now it depends on, of course, you know, where you get it from, because the MSRP and counter prices are going to vary, but there could be anywhere from $150, $200 difference between, you know, buying something like this Taurus and buying the Smith. And like I say, when you get right down to it, this Smith is only 2 ounces lighter than the Taurus, and the Taurus has an extra round. Now, I'm not hung up on capacity. I'm perfectly happy carrying this 5-shot, which is why I do it a lot. But if you're thinking, you know, budget-wise, and you're thinking about, well, function, you know, what am I getting for my money? You know, you're really getting a lot of gun for your money with the Taurus. You know, it's double single, it's 6 shots. It's got, you know, a nice finish. It's got a nice grip. It feels pretty good. It's got a changeable front sight. It's really not bad. And so I think that if you're looking to get a revolver, if it's, say, your first time, or if you've got other revolvers in your collection, even if you've got like other, you know, Smiths, and you're like me and you've had a bunch of these Smiths, and you're kind of, you know, favoring one particular type of gun, my experience with this is that it's just as good as any of those little J-frame Smiths that I have. And it's proven to be very reliable thus far, so I've got no reason to complain. And of course, Taurus has a lifetime warranty. So if you ever do have any issues with the firearm, you can send it into Taurus and they'll take care of it. So a good price point and a lifetime warranty and good features, I think it all makes sense. So for a lot of people, this could be a good choice. All right. That's going to do it for today. As always, we thank you so much for being with us. We'll be back very soon with another video for you. So until that time, as always, everybody stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.